Bang, 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 bang.
Joe, there are so many big movies on the radar coming up. I cannot wait for
Summertime, baby.
But perhaps, and I'm thinking even this year's radar, next year's radar. There's so many things lined up that I am thrilled to see when they hit theaters. But perhaps none has more anticipation around it than Christopher Nolan's, heard of him?
Yes.
Adaptation of Homer's Odyssey.
Yeah.
Now, production on this movie began in February. They're already making the thing.
Sick.
They've been shooting it for months now. Apparently, shooting is about halfway done. They just left Europe, all the location shoots. Now they're right across the street in Universal. Now they're doing all the backlot stuff.
Really?
They're right over here at Universal at Soundstages shooting right now.
That's so cool.
Isn't that amazing? It's right across the street right now. Christopher Nolan's
That's actually like I knew that in my head.
dreaming up
that
the
happens
Odyssey.
sometimes, but that's insanely cool.
Amazing. Now, as part of this location change, the crew must have had like a couple days or a week off or something, because one of the stunt coordinators, James Newman, went on a podcast called Action for Everyone, which we would love to be on as well. I guess maybe it's just for stunt coordinators.
No, it's for
stunt,
everyone.
oh, it's for, we can talk stunts. But James Newman went on there, and this guy started spilling the tea about Odyssey. Christopher Nolan's movies are famously very locked down. The scripts are carried in briefcases around Europe to secret locations. I mean, he is very, locked down on his sets. But James Newman started spilling the beans. This is what he said. I mean, this is a pretty good free advertisement for the movie, even though this podcast episode immediately got taken down after it went up. But here's what he said. They're never going to make a movie like this again. I think it's going to be an epic of all epics. It's going to be Nolan at his best. No holds barred. He fights a battle that a lot of people aren't fighting. The coordinator came to us with scout pictures of locations, and it's just all over Europe because Odysseus' journey is crazy. It's like 10 years long. They found locations, this is the part I love, and Nolan would go, okay, so this cave, has anyone ever filmed here before? And the local guy is like, no. And Nolan's like, great, we're going to film here.
Yes.
They wanted untouched places that had never been on film before.
Let's go.
What do you think, Joe? Is this like the last movie?
No,
or is this the sign of things to come?
Well, look, first of all, I want to run through a brick wall right now because that guy got me so hyped for the Odyssey.
Right?
I love Nolan.
Right?
I love the Odyssey. I love the way he sees the world. I love you, Chris. But Brett, to your question, is this going to be the last movie? I do think to honor that question for half a second, movies of a grand scale that are done with a lot of practical effects and on location, those are going to become farther and fewer between. They're already farther and fewer between. Like how often Chris Nolan makes the Odyssey. It's not like people are making Lawrence of Arabia every single year, but movies like Lawrence of Arabia are far and few between because they span the globe and include to thousands of people and stuff. And so here's Chris Nolan in his way in modern times doing a Lawrence, all over the world, jet setting, places no one's ever filmed before, coming back to Universal to finish it off, 1 million people in it. Only people like Christopher Nolan and people of his ilk and his level are ever going to get budgets to create these types of
$250 million.
But really only the great auteurs have ever been given the budgets to make these types of spectacles in a lot of ways. So I don't think this will be the last movie like this, but yeah, these are special when they come, and we should enjoy them when they are put together because they are rare and they are special.
And it definitely won't be the last one if it makes money, if it makes its budget back. If it does.
That's a fucking lock.
Come on.
It's obviously making its
Oppenheimer didn't get
budget
to $1 billion. This one's going to get to $1 billion. This one will get to $1 billion.
It's the Odyssey, and John Bernthal's in it. Like enough said.
Bernthal
Come
as
on.
Cyclops. Just kidding. We don't have actual casting for Bernthal yet. To that point, Nolan is using these brand new state-of-the-art IMAX cameras. So IMAX constantly innovating. He's got new IMAX cameras that have never been used before. This thing is gonna crush.
He
on
and IMAX are boys, you know.
Yeah.
For Interstellar, they had to expand the IMAX tray, and then for Oppenheimer, they had to expand the IMAX tray that the film sits on again. And in fact, the only reason Oppenheimer got cut to that length is if it was one more frame longer, it would have broke the biggest that an IMAX wheel can be. Anyway, so IMAX and Chris are always collabing.
That's a great detail. That's a great little trivia
They
fact.
are so enmeshed, and I love whatever. Just he gets in the lab with his nerds over at IMAX, and they cook. I can't wait to see what this film looks like.
So now's the time. Last week I was talking about how for the first time when you had Thunderbolts and Sinners both competing for IMAX screens, and there not being enough screens to go around, for the first time in as long as I can remember, Hollywood has a supply problem, not a demand problem. So now is the time. Let's start building more massive IMAX screens all over this country.
You're right.
For the Odyssey. Get it going now, because I don't want to hear this crap about how I don't want every screening sold out to the point you can't get a ticket to a 2 p.m. matinee on a Wednesday. Build more IMAX screens. There's going to be people hungry for this movie. And I don't want to see something where after 2 weeks it gets kicked off for a Marvel movie. This crap. They should both have enough IMAX screens to go around. The money is there. The demand is there.
You know, at the Olympics, they clear out homeless people and build new stadiums for it.
Yes, that's like Chavez Ravine, right?
That's the type of infrastructure development we need to spur, minus the displacement, for the Odyssey.
Got it. So you're thinking
building a giant swimming pool, build giant IMAXs in the middle of towns just to support the Odyssey.
Right, but not displace people who are already living there. Got it.
That's the bad part.
Yes, that's the bad part.
No, we want to do the good part.
Sorry, I did not mean that to be implicit in what I was suggesting. I was not suggesting that you displace people. I'm just saying, there's a massive fucking ex-Kmart out here in the Valley that still hasn't become anything. You know that have you driven by that thing, that ghost town Kmart? It's just a massive fucking building with nothing in it now. Let's make that a giant IMAX screen. Let's make it 3 fucking IMAX screens.
Fuck yeah.
All for the Odyssey, baby. Joe, what do you say? Should we get this show cooking?
Let's go.
All right. Wes, can you roll that fanfare, baby?
Welcome to Movies, baby. The weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm joined by my co-host Brett Bowen, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! We're coming to you live from the San Fernando Valley, baby. And this week we saw the movie Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. We're going to tell you what we thought about it. We're also going to dig into this week's box office returns, and we're going to discuss Jon Voight's plan to save Hollywood, which he presented to President Trump last week. That's exciting.
Thank you, sir.
And then in the second half of the show, for Patreon subscribers only, we've got a new episode of Weekend at Bergman's coming at you. That's our show where we pit an art house movie versus a popcorn movie, and we have to tell you honestly which one we liked better. Not trying to seem a certain way, not trying to posture or to pretend. We have to be honest. It's about honesty. And this week, oh boy, this week is quite a duo. We're going to be comparing Peter Greenaway's A Z and Two Noughts with Ivan Reitman's Twins, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. That's right. Brothers, identical brothers, or not so identical.
Twins is the theme. The theme is twins. The word you're looking for is twins.
I'm trying to avoid it because it's actually the name of one of the movies.
Yeah. The theme is the twins.
The theme is their twins, and one of the movies is called Twins, and that'll be in the second half of the show. For Patreon subscribers only, sign up at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. There it is on the screen if you're watching. Sign up, please. You can do a 7-day free trial. You can check it out. We got a lot of fun stuff on there and a lot more fun stuff coming.
Bergman's is good.
Bergman's is really, it's a good show.
It's a good show.
It's a
check
good
it
show.
out.
You're going to love it. But first, this week on Movies, baby, fear not, Hollywood. Jon Voight is on the case. That's right, the star of such classics as Midnight Cowboy and Anaconda and last year's Reagan went to D.C. last week to meet with President Trump to present his plan for saving Hollywood and getting Hollywood back on track. And we're going to give you the full breakdown on that plan right here, right now. But first, let's go back a few months, back to January. Remember January 2025? What a different time that was.
Yeah.
As President Trump had just been inaugurated for his second term, holy shit, and as one of his first moves as president, you might remember, he named Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and Jon Voight as his official Hollywood ambassadors, claiming that they would bring lost business back to troubled Hollywood.
And that was the best thing he's done in either the first or second term. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Regardless of how it turns out, just naming...
No. For the pure idea of it.
Creating a position called Hollywood Ambassadors and filling it with 3 just deranged right-wing lunatics is quite a move.
Yeah.
But apparently the only one to take that job seriously, the only one who took their ambassadorship seriously is Jon Voight, because Voight showed up in D.C. last week with his manager, and they had a freaking dossier with them entitled "How to Save Hollywood." They sat Trump down. You know, he's mad when he has to sit down and listen to dossiers being read to him, but he sat down, listened to their dossier, and here are the few ideas that were in there, Joe, because I read Voight's. I didn't just read what people were saying about it. I read Voight's plan, okay?
You
can find
didn't
it online.
Read what Trump said about it. I mean, you did, but like,
we'll talk about
this is what John said
This
at
is
lunch.
the actual plan. We read what the actual plan. You can find it online.
This is what John said at
Here's
lunch.
a couple. There's a lot in it, but here's a couple of the things that Voight
And also
is
shout out to
proposing.
Jon Voight for just, you're
Making
right.
a dossier.
Taking the ambassadorship, like, you know what? Honestly, you've given me a door. I'm going to walk through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what John said.
It is a little bit like, though, the mayor gives you, like, the key to the city, and then you try to start opening doors with it. It's like, oh, no, that's not a real
That's true.
It's not a real key.
Yeah. All right, so what John said,
here's what Voight has in mind. A federal tax credit on top of state tax credits. So right now,
good idea.
There's an ongoing competition about if you're going to film in the United States, what state do you film in? Because these states have competing tax credits. So that's what built up a huge film industry in Atlanta. That's why people go and still film in New York, or why people go and film in in Portland or wherever.
And specifically
local
for
state tax credits.
Yes. And then, sorry, I'm sure you'll get there. But then there's also tax credits overseas, and this plan addresses,
yes. And there are also tax credits overseas, which are even better than the ones offered here, and that's why people, much like Uwe Boll, figure out these schemes where they can lose money to make money and all that stuff. But Voight is proposing a federal tax credit, something in the realm of 10 to 15% on top of the state tax credits. He is also advocating for infrastructure subsidies to movie theaters, to theater owners, that they would start to get subsidies from the government, and also to film and television production companies. Hello, Mr. Voight. Nice to meet you. We would like some of those subsidies, please.
Mr.
And also
Voight.
post-production companies. He also suggested an end. He went right at the streamers. He's not trying to make friends with Ted Sarandos. He went right to the streamers and said he wants to end the draconian licensing terms that are used by streamers, where they demand 100% ownership of the material that they put on their streaming platforms. This used to not be the case. It actually used to be prevented by certain laws and regulations that have since been deregulated. But he wants to reinstitute that so that creators, production companies, what have you, can retain ownership of things that go on streaming platforms. And then he did advocate for, in certain limited circumstances, tariffs. Now, I do want to dig into what Voight said, but let's look at Trump's reaction first, because which thing do you think Trump really latched on to out of that group?
Licensing terms for streamers?
Nope. He could give a shit about that.
Okay.
He'd give a shit about that. The T word, baby, tariffs. Trump, based on what he subsequently went on True Social and posted, I think despite all of Voight's proposals, there's only one word that Trump heard. That word is his favorite word right now, tariffs. Because Trump then went on True Social after this meeting and announced that he was authorizing the Department of Commerce to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in, quote, foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. Now, I want to be clear, nothing in Voight's proposal, and I've read it, proposes a 100% tariff on movies made in foreign lands. There is something that says if American produced movies by American production companies, take advantage of foreign tax credits, international tax credits, then that they would be subjected to a tariff that would offset the tax credit, therefore incentivizing them to stay and shoot the movie in America. But there's nothing about 100% tariffs. Who would that tariff even be applied to? I don't know. So this is typical Trump response. Nobody knew if it was real or not. Hollywood's panicking. The share prices of Disney and Netflix took a hit for a couple days as people sorted through the wreckage of this announcement. Voight was like, what the fuck? I didn't say that. And then Trump in the White House just immediately walked it back 2 to 3 days later and said, we're going to go talk to the studios and see if this is doable or what they think of it, and then we'll get back to you.
Well, putting a tariff on a good like a movie is way harder than putting a tariff on a good like a toothbrush because of just like the ways they're made and the ways they're created.
Yes.
So that's just like very silly at the beginning. But yeah, but what's not silly is there was an 120%, like you said, reciprocal tariff. If anybody goes and enjoys the tax benefits overseas in any other foreign land, which is the funniest way to say it.
Foreign land.
Just makes it sound like it's like a weird thing to do, even though it's like a normal thing to do. Yeah, but then you get that tax. But
what do you think, though? What do you think of Voight's proposal? I have to be honest. I liked a lot of these ideas in the actual proposal.
Well, it's sort of, I love the proposal, but sometimes I worry about, here's what I love about the proposal. In theory, we live in Los Angeles. We want there to be jobs in Los Angeles because none of our friends have jobs. You know what I mean?
Yes, this problem is real. Like, if you go across the street to the Universal Bar and Grill where all the Universal crew members drink, they'll tell you they've been out of work for a year, 2 years since COVID. Like the problem is real. People are out of work in the city. They can't find jobs.
And these sort of like obnoxious comments about how Los Angeles is going to be the next Detroit, they certainly feel overstated for somebody that lives in this awesome city, but also it does slap of like a little bit of a cold reality where I am afraid that people are going to start moving soon if the work doesn't come back. So whether it's Newsom or the federal or Jon Voight, LOL, proposing it, some sort of federal subsidy, some sort of incentivization for production to stay in America, and then in some sort of incentivization for production to be affordable beyond that moment in America without passing on all of the cost increases to the consumer. It's a mess. So I don't know what they're going to do. Some of these ideas, this going backwards on the streaming rights, that is a beautiful idea. I don't know what leverage we creators have for that. I mean, besides, I guess like
it's regulating an American industry. They do it all the time. Couldn't they just
but I guess they just have to really believe in it. Like, I mean, this whole plan is like, it's all fun to say, but like it has to eventually be put on a piece of paper and signed. I don't know. And then my ultimate fear is like, you can't contain. I mean, one thing that's nice about the idea of Hollywood continuing in the next 50 years is like all the creatives living on top of each other and collaborating and working together. But with our horrible or beautiful TBD future, where basically everybody gets to be the director and the showrunner and the creator with the new tools that are going to be available to us, whether that's like AI tools or just different things people make and change, you're not going to be able to. It's like trying to push all the water back into the cup kind of a thing. Like, I am afraid that it's like when we try to get subsidies for coal miners, it's like, oh, we got to save the coal town. And it's like, you got to save the coal town, but how many times you got to save the coal town before you got to just, do a new kind of energy?
But the difference here, though, is that like movies are still a vital, like people still watch movies, like movies are still getting made, like there's a lot of reasons why coal can't come back.
But what I'm saying is it's very expensive to make a movie here. And only certain people can afford to make a movie here. And these plans are great, but what this might do to independent film production is suspect. Like,
good point.
Cool. Like, now the Odyssey is going to be filmed here 100%, so all those jobs stay here. But what about, like, it's going to make smaller things more expensive, or it could make things more expensive. That being said, it is like, I'm not saying, oh, this plan's bad. I'm just saying, like, this is such a challenging issue to solve, and I have no idea how to approach it, and it worries me all day long. That's what I'm saying.
It's a very challenging issue. I definitely don't trust Voight and Trump to solve it.
There's no way that's the dream team that's going to fix it. But
I was surprised, though, by how sort of how much I agreed with so many things in the Voight proposal, but they are a little bit pie in the sky. They also remind me, one of the funny things about the political spectrum is how right-wing people tend to be. They're fiscally conservative about everyone else, but then when it comes to their industry, give me that government money, baby, please, give it to me. Everyone is a leftist when it comes to their own money and their own industry, because of course everyone wants freaking subsidies and like, and to be sort of, have the industry regulated to benefit the industry and all this kind of stuff. But it was just kind of funny reading it, being like, this is like, I thought Voight was like hardcore Republican. This is just all government subsidies and spending and like so it was interesting to see. It is very ambitious, very idealistic. I also wanted to address something that's getting talked about in the proposal, which is this American cultural test. So one of the things that like raised a red flag was Voight was saying that in order for movies to what's the word I'm looking for? To qualify. In order for movies to qualify for this federal tax credit, they have to pass a quote unquote American cultural test. And so that was the thing where everyone was like, what the fuck, dude? What is this dystopian nonsense? And of course, in the hands of Trump and MAGA, that will go very badly very quickly. But again, if you read the actual proposal, what he does is because this has been going on in the UK forever. UK has a quote unquote cultural test for movies that get like national tax credits over there. And what all Voight did was literally copy and paste the UK cultural test and put it in and said we should do something like this. And it's just like it's like a point system where you get points for like is the director and crew from the UK.
So 75% of the crew has to be from
stuff like
America,
that.
Right.
And one of the interesting things that stayed in the proposal that Voight handed to Trump, and Trump said, "Great, I love it." There's like DEI initiatives in the cultural test. So like one of the things that you get points for is the diversity and equality and inclusivity of the crew. So Trump, not knowing it, has signed off on DEI for the American movie industry. So the American cultural test, if you read it in the proposal, is kind of the opposite of what it sounded like to everybody. Now look, I don't trust like obviously MAGA and Trump and Stephen Miller and everyone else to do
Save
that,
Hollywood.
right? But like it's just funny that in the proposal itself, it's like it includes DEI initiatives, and Voight and Trump were like, cool.
Hey, you know, it is sad to drive past Warner Brothers and know that like the lots are empty and Ryan Reynolds is turning one into a pickleball court. You know, it's not great.
Yeah,
you know, Universal's got the Odyssey in there today. Doesn't always have the Odyssey in there.
No, more often than not, it
might
does
have
not.
Like 60% of the time, there's nothing in there.
Yeah, 60% of the time it's like American Ninja Warrior, and they're either using it or it's just like abandoned from the last American Ninja Warrior.
So we got to do something. I don't know if this is it, but I mean, probably not. But like, what do we do?
Now, here's one solution: is just keep making movies that people want to see. Because
and look, that's right.
Because you know, as we've seen, Hollywood, for all of its struggles in the first 3 months of this year, all of its struggles since COVID, just had one of the best Aprils on record. Just had an incredible month with a Minecraft movie, Sinners, and Thunderbolts hitting back to back to back. And it's also, we see in a month like this, it's not just having one movie hit. It's getting that old school, old Hollywood snowball effect of like 3 movies hitting in a row. And then suddenly everyone's going to the movie theaters again. People are talking about going to the movie theaters. They're going to see Thunderbolts and they see a big line for Sinners, so they go to Sinners the next weekend. There is a real snowball effect that happens when multiple movies are hitting at the same time. And that's what we saw in April. And this year is already up 15 to 16% at the box office over last year. So we're moving in that sense in the right direction, but Hollywood, obviously, you know, you go to the bar across the street, tons of crew members there out of work every day, just waiting for the call. So we know there is a problem here, but you know, who's going to solve it? Probably not Jon Voight and Donald Trump. But speaking of money, let's look at the box office returns from this weekend. Wes, can you show me the money, please? Let's see how these freaking movies
Let's see the money.
There we
Bang,
go.
bang,
There
bang,
we
bang,
go.
bang, 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 bang. Remember that? Was it just last week we had the 4 20 millionaires? Was that last week?
That was
2
last-
weeks ago?
That was last
That
week.
was beautiful.
That was last. And look, we still got 2 over 20. Thunderbolt in its second week had a 55.5% drop. It made $33 million domestic. It's currently at $272 million worldwide on a $180 million budget. So it's still got a ways to go to make profit, but it's doing pretty good out of the gate, particularly compared to recent Marvel fare. We saw earlier this year Captain America: Brave New World had a 68% drop its second week.
Exactly.
So even with much more competition, Thunderbolts had a smaller drop.
Because it was good and it had good reviews and people liked it.
So hopefully Thunderbolts keeps that going, has a nice long tail, keeps making money. And we have Memorial Day weekend coming up. We have the summer coming up. So even though there are other big movies coming out that it will compete with, what we've seen this year is that competition helps all the movies. It's kind of like an, all boats rising thing that, Thunderbolts has helped Sinners has helped Thunderbolts, Minecraft movie helped everything. So even with Mission Impossible, Lilo and Stitch, etc., coming out, I would expect Thunderbolts to keep making money, and I think it's going to see profit with those good reviews helping it, of course. Now, Sinners, again, just keeps having these small drops. Like, this thing just keeps going. Another 21 million domestic in its fourth weekend. That is better, Joe. That is better than the fourth weekend of The Sixth Sense, which was a phenomenon in 1999, and it's better than the fourth weekend of It. That It remake that made
insane.
A boatload of money.
That is crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, this movie is making a ton of money, and its staying power is great. And I want to credit its staying power to the cultural impact of theatrical distribution.
Absolutely. It is
Sorry.
Sinners is up to 283 million worldwide on a $90 million budget. Good job, Ryan Coogler. Excellent work. Now, we did have 3 new wide release movies come out this weekend. None of them, kind of huge movies, none of them big budget movies. But let's look at them really quickly. Clown in a Cornfield led the pack. Now, I saw Clown in a Cornfield. I really liked it. This is an old school throwback 80s slasher. Really fun premise. It is exactly what it says. Clowns killing people in a small town. But it has some interesting themes going on about sort of generational turnover and generational change in this small town. It also just has great kills, great thrills, a real throwback vibe. I love that.
Okay.
I would highly, highly recommend you go see it.
All right, we'd be checking out Clown in the
I gave it
Cornfield.
4 stars on Letterboxd. I stand by that, baby. Great theatrical experience too. A lot of oohs and ahs in my
Nice.
crowd. Really fun theatrical experience. And that is, even though it only made 3.65 million opening weekend, that is, a very, very low budget movie. That is IFC's. This was an IFC distributed movie. IFC's biggest opening weekend ever, beating out last year's Late Night with the Devil. So IFC has really found a niche, Joe, with these low budget horror movies.
It's amazing, and they pair it with Shudder.
Absolutely. It's old school vertical integration because they own from, it's going to go on their streaming platform, Shudder, which collectively it's all owned by AMC. But it's going to go on their streaming platform. They have the whole thing. So this thing has a 3-week theatrical release window, and that's going to go right on Shudder.
Brilliant. Love that. Love IFC. Love Shudder.
Do not wait, though. Do not wait for this. I mean, see it again. I'm going to watch it again when it comes out on Shudder. See this thing in a theater. It is like, it's great because it has it has stuff that will appeal to like hardcore horror fans, but it's not Terrifier. It's not so gory that it will scare away, the like sort of, not
Wimps.
quite full horror fans.
Wimps.
So I would see this in theaters. You'll have a blast. Clown in the Cornfield. Super fun.
Well, that's all well and good. What's Shadow Force?
So Shadow Force, Joe, our old friends at Lionsgate, another swing and a miss.
Lionsgate, a mini major, a gigantic entertainment company, put out a new film this week called Shadow Force.
It's an action movie with Kerry Washington.
Yeah.
It looks like one of these classic sort of True Lies things or Mr. and Mrs. Smith things where it's like they're spies, but they have a family life, and then the two things intersect.
Do you know who's opposite of her? There's another famous person. It's Omar Sy.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Is that correct?
I'll look it
Because
up.
I was, only reason I know is I saw a bus ad, and I was driving down the street, and I said, Omar Sy's in a fucking movie with Kerry Washington?
Yes. Omar Sy and Kerry Washington.
What I just said
Mark
was,
Strong,
was my
Method Man.
only... I was like, what? They're making a movie with Omar Sy's the lead in America? No. Omar Sy's a French actor. He was, he was in Lupin on Netflix for all you fucking Lupin heads out there. And he was in some other beloved, heart-touching movie I forget the name of in France that I thought was mid. But he's a great actor that has absolutely no draw here and should never be leading the movie. Kerry Washington, a wonderful star, but someone who is not carrying your action movie. She's an amazing person. She'd carry you on TV. Olivia Pope. Shout out to, what was that show called? Scandal. But also remember that time with Chris Rock when he got the divorce because it was Kerry Washington. Remember that? Okay. Do you remember that?
I know. What's that?
Oh wait, yeah. Remember when Chris Rock got the divorce and then did Tambourine, the special?
remember
He
any of
cheated
this.
on his wife with Kerry Washington.
Okay. Interesting.
He cheated on his wife with Kerry Washington.
Well,
okay. I mean, also,
maybe they should
what
have
if
used
I'm
that
wrong?
for the marketing, because the marketing for Shadow Force definitely needed some sort of adrenaline boost, because the trailer was nothing. The trailer was boring. Lionsgate spent $40 million on this production budget.
Is like Lionsgate Jr. running the studio or
I don't
something?
know what's happening.
Who's the dipshit over there that's job is untouchable? You have made 15 fucking disasters in a row.
They don't even
Am I
commit.
wrong?
They don't know, and they don't even like. There's no like conviction to the movies. It's like, why spend $40 million on a movie you don't care about or market effectively? Like,
I don't
like
get
what
it.
are these nothing movies you keep spending tons of
You
money
know,
on?
everybody else is like in trouble and like scrambling. Lionsgate's in trouble and just sort of like mellowed out in a bathtub, whatever.
Yeah.
Just chilling out. Like, get up, take a cold shower, Lionsgate, and go make a movie that you care about, because otherwise you're not going to have a studio much longer.
They must really. I mean, like the John Wick. They must just the John Wick success made them cocky, I think, because they could just now they're like extending the John Wick universe, ballerina TV shows. There's going to be John Wick 5, even though Keanu Reeves died in the last one. So I think they're over depending on their back catalog, but it is drying up. John Wick is going to dry up. Saw, they can't get Saw 10 made, so that's not going to get
Saw 10. You mean Saw 11?
Saw 11. Sorry, they can't get Saw 11
Saw 10
made.
rocks.
Sorry, they can't get Saw. So, but why are they doing Saw 11? It's just,
They
it's just,
are there.
They said they were. Are they doing it? It got derailed. The whole production got derailed.
Well, then you know something I don't. That's a shame to hear.
Saw 11 is in jeopardy right now, which is like automatic money. So they can't get the automatic money movies made, but then they put out Shadow Force on a $40 million budget. Get it together, Lionsgate.
I do this every week, and Brett gets mad because we already have jobs at our wonderful company. But
Yeah,
Lionsgate, I will run you.
We need you here.
Call me.
We need you here.
I want to run you.
Oh, you can do Spielberg directing Poltergeist and E.T. at the same time. That worked out well for
I can
for
do
those
like
movies.
Elon Musk is like the CEO of like 7 companies at the same time.
Yeah.
Doing a good job at none of them. Good job. What else you got here?
Overall, I want to do a quick overall look. Oh, and Fight or Flight, the Josh Hartnett renaissance continues, but unfortunately not making that much money. I do want to see Fight or Flight. It's a
it looks
Vertical
kinda
Entertainment who is starting to make moves. Put it out. It looks like a lot of fun. Josh Hartnett getting crazy on a plane.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of fun. I couldn't find the budget anywhere, so I'm guessing it was minuscule. So that one's not going to be a huge loss for Vertical, I don't think. But the big headline here for me is Clown in a Cornfield, another low-budge horror making good. Go see it while it's in theaters. Now, really quickly, one more thing that you're not going to see in the top 10 here, Joe, but I have to mention it. Did you hear about the Snow White re-release?
No. Wait, they re-released it? They did like a Wicked
Joe.
sing-along thing?
Joe.
Oh,
okay.
no. I don't want to hear about this.
Number one, stop referring to this movie as Rachel Zegler's Snow White. How dare you? It's Disney's Snow White. She just acts in the
just the
movie.
actor.
You fucking
Leave her
assholes.
alone, you
yes.
weirdos.
Stop. All the trades are now just fucking industry plant
It's like
trades.
the trades.
Yeah.
It's just like the fucking 25-year-old that uses fucking AI to draft your bullshit PR articles.
It's such a cheap,
Stop
low move. Stop
leave her
referring to
alone.
Leave her alone. Stop referring to her as Rachel Zegler's Snow White. Disney's Snow White.
All she did is she just went to work and she did a really good job.
Yeah.
And she was the best part of that piece of shit.
Hey, the Snow White ride down at Disneyland, is that now Rachel Zegler's Snow White ride? How far are we going with this? It's your fucking property, Disney. Own it.
So our defensiveness is making me think that the re-release didn't
not go well.
Didn't go
So
great.
for some reason, you would think that Disney would just be desperate to sweep this thing under the rug. It's coming out on VOD tomorrow on Tuesday. You'd think they would just be like, all right, let's just forget
VOD and just move
forget
on.
this happened,
Yeah,
this whole
100%.
debacle, and let's just get to VOD. Everyone will quietly in their house
watch
buy
it.
this on
Yeah,
streaming.
right.
So let's just
put it in front of their
get
dumb
there.
kid. Yeah,
They don't
right,
care.
yeah.
But instead, they decided to do a re-release of a movie that came out like a month ago.
Well, they do this now, but for big movies that are popular.
Big movies that hit.
Minecraft
So they do the
did this,
Minecraft
Wicked
block
did
parties,
this, right.
Wicked sing-alongs.
What
yes.
did they do?
So I get, like, no one knows why. Like, everyone's like, was it for Mother's Day weekend? What?
Snow
But
White's not a
why?
story about mothers.
No, yeah, like, so people were like, nobody knows why they did this. It's like it's the weekend before VOD, so maybe they thought, let's give it one last try. But this is expensive, so they re-released it in 1,300 screens. Joe, oh God, don't look at my notes. What do you think the per screen average was?
I don't know, Brett. Per screen average,
And like a good normal per screen average is like 2,000, 3,000.
I bet it was like $300.
$50.
That's sad.
That's really what. But why pour salt in your own wound? Why is Disney sitting there with a broken arm, a compound fracture, pouring salt in its own wound?
What was
Just
the gag?
take the loss and move on.
Sing along, or just like a
Nothing.
re-release? And you mean this is the new Snow White, not old Snow White?
No, and here's the thing, Joe. You are on every fucking industry newsletter. You are on every Twitter account,
Yeah, I had no
Instagram
idea.
account. You had no idea this was happening.
Literally zero until this moment.
There was no concept for it, no premise for it, and they didn't market it. They just quietly put this movie that had already bombed out on 1,300 screens.
Can they please stop? Just leave it alone.
Stop it.
Just move on. You have so many other things going on, like their amazing quarterly report, which was very positive. Just worry about that.
Worry about that.
Great streaming numbers.
Worry about that.
Opening a fucking park in the Middle East run by the Sheik. Worry about that.
And then again,
leave
in the Hollywood
fucking Zegler alone.
Yeah, and then the Hollywood Reporter today. What do I read? Rachel Zegler's Snow White bombs again in re-release.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Dummy. Fuck off.
All right. You want to talk about friendship?
Oh, yeah.
Our friendship? State of the Union? All right. The
movie.
This week on Movies, baby, men shouldn't have friends. Now, Joe and I obviously disagree with that sentiment, or at least we did before we saw the new A24 comedy Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. We're going to give you our review of the movie just in a second, but before we do, let's look at how the movie performed this weekend, because I didn't see it in that top 10.
Well, it was not out yet. It's in limited release. It was on 6 screens, all right? So
and guess what?
Comes out in 2 weeks.
It did well. Very well in limited release. Very well, yes.
I've been saying that.
Now, Snow White made $50 per screen.
Leave Snow White alone.
Friendship made $75,000 per screen. That is the biggest per screen average of the year so far, bigger than all the tent poles. Now, this is not uncommon. We see this always. We saw it last year.
Don't undersell it.
We saw it last year.
What do you work for Variety's Twitter?
I'm just saying we see it with high-profile, buzzy indie movies. So we saw it last year with Kinds of Kindness, the Yorgos Lanthimos movie, made like 75 or 78 per screen. We saw it with Jason Reitman's Saturday Night. When these buzzy indie movies get limited release, they do very well per screen. And Friendship is a buzzy indie movie that did very well per screen, or per theater. Thank you. So congratulations. Thank you and congratulations to A24 and Friendship. Did excellent business, and hopefully that keeps going in wide release. Now, Friendship is written and directed by Andrew DeYoung, talented, accomplished comedy director. He's worked in the past with other indie comedy heroes of ours like John Early, Kate Berlant, and this is his feature directorial debut. It stars Tim Robinson, of course, Paul Rudd, and Kate Mara. The DP was Andy Rizdusky. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It was distributed by A24. This movie is about a suburban guy, Tim Robinson, with a little middleman corporate job, whose wife, Kate Mara, is recovering from cancer, and then he strikes up this spontaneous friendship with another guy in his neighborhood, a charismatic weatherman named played by Paul Rudd, and then things get a little crazy, and Tim loses his mind, and so on and so forth. Joe, what'd you think of Friendship?
Brett, I loved Friendship. I was so happy to see a comedy movie full of jokes from beginning to end at the movie theater with my packed house full of $75,000 worth of people at 9:30 in the morning.
Wow.
On a Saturday. It was a 9:30 a.m. screening. It was packed, and everybody loved it, and I loved it too. Andrew DeYoung is obviously a very well practitioner. He's been around the block of comedy for a minute. He knows what he's doing. But in Friendship, he does something a little bit different than some of his other stuff, only in the sense that he really slows down, and which is something that I really liked. I think some of the funniest parts of Friendship is when the characters get to explore their excesses. But I think that the real reason that Friendship works so great for me is the patience and the restraint shown by Andrew DeYoung in his composition, in his lighting, and in some of his choices. You know, the characters don't always go for the biggest, I think you should leave-esque shtick every time. There is feints and tries at humanity, and a lot of them work. I think that sometimes Tim Robinson, as he develops into what I hope to be one of our next great comedy, let's call them movie stars. I hope he makes a lot of comedy movies, a la Albert Brooks or Will Ferrell. I want that for him. If he's going to do that, I think that him, my favorite, the guy who makes me laugh harder than anybody else, but if he's going to become one of that level, which I want for him, he's going to have to tap into that like heart element, like the Steve Martin, like after all the zaniness, bringing it back to heart sort of moment. I do feel like the ending of Friendship left a little bit to be desired. I think it had all the right pieces for some sort of operatic, comedic crescendoing ending that perfectly put a bow on the excellent movie, and it didn't really reach that, but that's okay. This is Andrew DeYoung's first feature with A24. It's Tim Robinson's first feature as a lead or a co-lead. And Paul Rudd is used well and is super charming and funny. But if this is going to be the future of comedy, if we're going to get Paul Rudd sort of pulling from the Adam McKay, Will Ferrell tradition, and we'll get Tim Robinson sort of pulling from his sort of new alt hipster comedy brilliance, if we get that sort of flavor put together, and then Andrew DeYoung is sort of taking a step to, let's do comedy, let's do big screen comedy, but let's shoot it like it's something of value and not a piece of television. I respect that and I appreciate that. I thought the movie looked great. I thought it was funny, and I would totally recommend this movie. Brett, I loved this movie. It's not a masterpiece, but I do think it'll mature into a minor classic. Ooh. I'm going to give this movie 4.5 stars. I think it's a gem.
Whoa!
I think it's a gem.
Whoa!
This movie had me cracking the shit up, and I don't care that it didn't end and become a perfect masterpiece. In today's starved comedy landscape, it was so nice to have just a real thing to clench onto. It cracked me up. That's what a comedy movie's supposed to do. It also looked great. I love Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. Kate Mara did a good job with her slightly underdeveloped comedically sort of character that could have helped a little bit more here and there. Who cares? The point is, this is the first one out. I fucking think it was funny as fuck. I loved that about it. And I can't wait to see what's next. And this at the beginning of the summer, and Naked Gun in August at the end of the summer. Ooh. If we have our indie do well financially, and we have sort of our broad stroke IP derivative thing do well this summer, I will officially say this is the summer that comedy is back. I love the energy out of the first weekend with these 6 screenings. I love the energy. Let's get out for Friendship. They're trying to help us save comedy. They're doing a damn good job. Let's help them save comedy by going out to the movie theaters this weekend, next weekend, and seeing Friendship.
I love that message. And we already had one of them days sleeper comedy hit earlier this year. So this is a kind of comedy is back year so far, at least the way it's developing. Now, Joe, I agree with you that this movie had some very funny individual moments in it. I mean, it has Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd in it. They're going to be funny no matter what kind of material they get. The scene where Tim like trips when he licks a hallucinogenic frog in the back of like a Verizon store that has like the world's like just sort of most gentlest sort of trip is very funny. That recurring bit where he wants to eat the SEAL Team 6 meal at the local bar.
That's so funny. Also the recurring bit. Sorry to like tell you jokes, but just Brett, the recurring bit when like Paul Rudd's this like bon vivant, this like cool guy, and he doesn't care about having a phone. So Tim Robinson takes a time to like, he's like, you know what, I don't need to have a phone, but he doesn't like do it like very obviously. It's just you learn about it throughout the rest of the movie as other characters are like, don't call Tim, he doesn't have a phone, and he keeps being like, that was just a period of time. I have a phone now. All
right, look,
it was so funny.
There's some very, very funny bits in the movie, but I felt
it's so funny the whole time.
Unlike Joe, I felt like the movie clearly has ambitions though beyond just being an episode of I Think You Should Leave. It is aspiring to that A24 dark comedy prestige level of filmmaking, and in that sense, I thought the movie failed to meet those ambitions. Specifically, there's the A24 touches to me didn't blend seamlessly enough with the jokes, with all the the sort of Tim Robinson sort of sketch moments, the Paul Rudd like coming out of the Adam McKay universe, like the Paul Rudd moments. It all didn't blend together. It never sort of became one cohesive whole for me. And specifically, humanizing characters in a comedy like this is tough, and I didn't think it fully worked in this movie because the movie never really established a suspension of disbelief for me. Like, if I'm meant to take these characters as real enough to care about them in the way you want me to care about them, they can't be characters from I Think You Should Leave. They have to be sort of three-dimensional human beings on their own, and the movie just didn't do enough to sort of establish that level. Like, these always felt they never stopped feeling like Tim Robinson sketch characters to me, and specifically because there's a lot of material in the movie that is drawn straight from that universe. But one example is, Kate Mara and Tim Robinson, you find out, have been married for 16 years and they have a kid. Their marriage, as you would expect in a movie like this, is just the most awful, depressing, just corrosive marriage you can imagine. These people have nothing in common with each other. They loosely despise each other. The only reason they're together is so they're not, so Tim doesn't have to be alone. And it just, but they went so far with that. I could never buy this marriage as like real. And you have to buy the marriage as real in order to care about it in the way the movie wants you to care about it. And so stuff like that I thought could have just been, and like little changes, like why have they been married for 16 years? Because there's this like ex-boyfriend that's always hanging around. It's the handsome, funny guy from the other two, that great character actor. Why not make that the ex-husband instead of the ex-boyfriend? Then Tim and Kate have only been married for 5 years or 4 years, or I don't know. Like little things like that could have just made the credibility of everything work better, and could have then because as soon as suspension of disbelief happens, baby, off to the races. I just never sort of bought the world as real in the way that the movie wanted me to buy the world as real, and it just undermined some of the more artistic touches, some of the more thematic messaging that was going on around masculinity and stuff like that. And I really just, and in that sense, then there wasn't enough laugh moments. There wasn't enough kind of zaniness. And so I thought it was sort of stuck in the middle of like zany Tim Robinson comedy and A24 kind of like dark prestige comedy.
But I just think that's an admirable, it was an admirable attempt that succeeded like all over the place in combining those two things.
I want to be clear. I loved your review that you just gave, even though I personally didn't agree with all of it. I just love this. I think this is the right way to approach friendship is I think it is going to be a little more divisive than I was expecting. I don't think everyone's going to love it, but everyone should see it. It is a interesting, it is striving towards something very interesting in terms of where comedy is going and what comedy can be, taking these threads of the Connor O'Malley's and the Tim Robinsons and the Carmen Christophers and the Eric Cahills and all these sort of
and Wit, shout out.
Yes, and all these sort of alt comedians who have been living online and making really just incredible sort of transgressive, interesting comedy. How can we bring them into feature film world, into A24 world? Right. So I love the project of the movie. I just think in this first time out of the gate, it didn't hit for me.
Because that's the crew. Like, that should be the crew. Like, Judd Apatow's like, oh, here's the crew. There's, Seth Rogen and his boys, there's the crew. I like Andrew DeYoung being like, here's the crew. Like, I am coming from Kate Berlant, John Early world, and I'm dubbing you guys, Tim Robinson and your alt riffraff, the new crew. And I think that's like a good bet for like the comedy boys. And if this was their first outing, I can't wait to see 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Agree. I will go to the next one that you make, Andrew DeYoung. I'll go to the next Tim Robinson movie. But I got to be honest about this movie. Yeah. And in addition to the never establishing suspension of disbelief, there were also, I thought, you kind of alluded to this, a lot of missed opportunities for escalation, a lot of missed opportunities for pushing things even farther, even harder. Specifically, there was a lot with Paul Rudd's character that felt left on the table. There was a lot with Kate Mara's character that felt left on the table. Just stuff that could have been done with them, because they both sort of take weird, interesting turns, but then it's sort of just left there.
So it felt like they only had a couple days with each of them. Did you get that impression?
Yes, it's very vignette-y, and I didn't like that because it's a tight story. So a tight story like that doesn't have to be vignette-y. A tight story basically happening in one town over the course of just a month, probably. It shouldn't have felt as vignette-y. It should have felt more like a story that's escalating and escalating and escalating to beyond what you can sustain. And it didn't feel like that. It was very sort of relaxed and constantly de-escalating itself throughout. And there's a little look at the very end of the movie that Paul Rudd gives Tim Robinson that kind of throws the last half of the movie into a different relief. And that's the kind of thing where I was like, I want that look to mean more. I want that look to mean something different, but it doesn't mean a lot because you haven't been sort of pursuing that energy in the second half of the movie. You've just been sort of doing bit. So look, ultimately we weirdly I think there's like a level at which we agree about this movie. You liked it more than I did. I felt like these flaws were kind of pretty big flaws, and so overall I thought, for as funny as the movie is, and it's very funny, I found it to just be all right. I gave it 2.5 stars. Is this our biggest disparity in ratings? At least in
this
Civil
is
War.
absolute no. Yeah, we have to check the Civil War, but
Two-star disparity.
This is a full 2-star. You didn't even say it was good. You said it was all right.
It's all right. It's all right. I wanted more. I expected more.
No, man, it's a gem.
Now, I do also, before we leave, and look, I'm not trying to rap anybody on the knuckles here. I just thought this was funny, all right? Because for the other, why did I have such high expectations for this movie? Because on the poster, there's been a quote for months now from GQ that said, "The funniest thing I've seen in my entire life," is the quote on the poster from GQ.
Brett.
So obviously I have high expectations. Here we go, baby. The Tim Robinson masterpiece movie. Here we go. The funniest thing I've seen in my entire life, GQ. After I watched the movie, I was like, who's this fucker at GQ that said this was the funniest thing he's seen in his entire life? It's very funny. Funniest thing you've seen in your entire life. So I went and I tracked this quote down, Joe. Look at this hijinks that A24 pulled. And A24, this is like kind of a pat on the back. I'm like impressed because, again, I've said it before. I want the indies to like do the same dirty tricks that the big studios do. I want Neon and A24 and IFC and whoever else, Briarcliff, playing these dirty tricks. All right, listen to this. This is the actual quote from the article. It's from an article by Esther Zuckerman, who loved the movie, who was very complimentary of the movie. She said, oh no, did I delete it? Oh no. All right, basically, she said one of the scenes, I'm going to paraphrase now. She said one of the scenes, the scene where he licks the frog and trips, she said that scene was one of the funniest things she had ever seen in her life. So one scene is among the funniest things she's ever seen in her life. And then A24, God bless you, on the poster put the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
They got you, man. They got you.
They got me. They got me. I saw the movie day
Brett
one.
Feels a sense of betrayal when he learns that these pull quotes are fabrications. And he's never going to accept it.
Joe, that's insane.
Brett, no, I'm just saying.
That's crazy.
All right, I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
Because they rewrote the sentence without like doing the brackets or the ellipses or anything.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up.
It's fucked up, but I admire it. Like, I don't want like Jamie Dimon doing dirty tricks. I want A24 and Neon doing dirty tricks.
All right, well, they got dirty trick. You saw the movie and then you left and you thought it was disappointing because you expected it to be the funniest thing you ever seen in your entire life.
They got my money.
And then you came out and
they
you got
my
2.5
fucking
stars.
money, though.
That's true.
They got my money.
They got your
what
money.
do they care?
That's right.
The dirty trick worked, and I applaud it. I like it. Now, look, next week on the show, speaking of movies that I can't wait to see in theaters, holy shit, Joe.
What do we got?
We got to do Final Destination in theaters. Yes. Final Destination Bloodlines next week.
Yes.
Also, that movie The Weeknd made is coming out. I don't know if we're going to see that or not, but that's coming out next weekend too.
Skip it.
But definitely go see Final Destination Bloodlines. This is one of the great horror franchises of our time.
That's right.
Is the Final Destination movies. And in honor of Final Destination Bloodlines, we're taking just a week off from Weekend at Bergman's. We'll keep doing Weekend at Bergman's the following week, but we have to. Guys, we have to do this. This is the best idea we've ever had.
Yeah.
We are going to go. We're both, you're a big fan of Final Destination?
Huge.
I'm a huge fan too. We're going to go through and do the definitive ranking of all the kills in the Final Destination movies from worst to best. Every single one. By my estimates right now, we're going to be ranking like 40 to 50 kills,
because
depending on
like
how many are in
movie,
Bloodlines.
More or less.
Exactly. So depending on how many are in Bloodlines, but they have been like doing more kills per movie. So this could be upwards of 50 kills that we have to rank worst to best.
And we'll bucket them. We'll chug through.
Yes.
We're not going to waste your time, but it has to be ranked.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It has to be ranked.
Yes.
And will any of the Bloodlines kills make it? TBD.
Ooh, will they make it in the? Will they have to be ranked somewhere?
TBD.
Will they crack top 10? Will they crack top 5?
I mean, I am really excited for Bloodlines.
Have we not yet seen the greatest kill in the Final Destination franchise? Hard to believe.
They have
Highway kill.
This is why the late saws.
Tanning bed at number 3.
The late saws get so good because, like, you really got to think of something kooky.
I know.
to like impress them.
I like the Final Destination kills better than the Saw ones though, because they're always just like sort of silly. They're always a little sillier. There's not as much malice towards the human body.
So much sillier. Final Destination is like barely a horror movie.
It's
like
fun.
Anybody can watch it.
It's
It's
so
like
fun.
it's the funnest thing.
They're the funnest
It's
movies.
a mess. I watched 1 and 2 last night.
Yeah.
They're fucking sublime. 2's opening is so funny. How like that big crash happens on the road.
The opening
you know what I'm talking
crash.
about?
Yeah, two
It's so
has
funny when that log
gonna
goes
appear
through
a
the
lot.
guy's head.
Yes.
And then like it's very silly horror franchise. It's about like a spiritual Rube Goldberg that's taking out your friends.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I've started doing like a taxonomy of types of Final Destination kills. There's the premonition kill, like the highway. The Rube Goldberg kill where they're just a person's just like trying to cook dinner in their apartment and they're showing you all the ways they could die.
And they keep that's what they do every time. And then they pass over. It's like, I guess he was not going to stand on the knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's going to put his hand on the stove. No, he's going to go over to the hot water. That's every kill.
It's the best.
All right, we'll see you there. See you there.
All right, that's next week only on Patreon, though, so sign up for Patreon for that. And speaking of, right now only for Patreon, we're coming back in a mere 5 minutes with a new episode of Weekend at Bergman's, a Zen and Two Knots versus Twins.
Come on.
You do not want to miss that.
Come talk 80s with us.
Come talk 80s movies with us. Peter Greenaway versus Schwarzenegger, DeVito, and Reitman. This is going to be a bloodbath, and I can't wait.
Bloodbath. See you there.
We'll see you there.
Thanks, Wes.
Bye.